So I'm Rose Young. I think I have met everyone here except for Patrick. I haven't met you. Hi. So it's nice to meet you. And hopefully we'll be joined by a few other folks, but that's another reason for recording is because I know it was a little short notice, and hopefully we can do this again and we can introduce folks again. What we're trying to do here is connect our community a little bit. And here's Tom. And connect our community a little bit more. We can't do it in person, so we're trying to do a little bit more of the online connection and maybe work out more of some one-to-one connections where it makes sense, because you're not going to see each other at events. You're not going to see each other, just in passing and at some other activity. But we have this tool that we can use, and we know that there are some folks out there that are looking for some connections. So just as some introductions, I am working for First Chesapeake as an FTC liaison and community outreach, and so is Prasad. Wave Prasad. Prasad is down there, and some of you knew him as the senior mentor prior to this iteration of his career. We have two new senior mentors, one for Maryland and one for Virginia, and they are both with us, I see now. And we'll talk a little bit about the role of the senior mentor, but they will explain that. And
we're searching for one from DC.
Oh, yes.
If anybody knows anybody who might fit in well as a senior mentor.
Right. It's a big turnover year in that role.
Send them our way.
So our others, the senior mentors that are here from Maryland is Tom Milnes. And so hi, Tom. And Patrick Foley for Virginia. And they're both coming on board, getting ready to do some things. So happy to have you guys with us. We also have from First Chesapeake, Ron Therian, who you all know, everybody knows Ron, who's been doing a bang up job, and he's still working on getting all those registrations.
I was like, I just realized you changed my name. I was
like, the one
change it yourself.
Corrected it is Sarah. And Sarah is our volunteer coordinator for First Chesapeake. So we have a number of staff members on here that you'll see around. And now we have another new role, lots of changes this year. And that is we have an FTC Advisory Committee modeled after the FRC Advisory Committee with all the changes that are going on at First Chesapeake. And Eric Wood is the chair for that. So he's going to say a little bit about what they are doing. And we're going to start with, after we just said hi to everybody, Prasad saying a little bit about what First Chesapeake is now in terms of FTC. Prasad.
You threw me right there under the bus, Rose. I didn't know.
I told you I was going to. No, I'll do it.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So Rose and I are working together. As most of you know, when USRA left the partner role, First Chesapeake came over. So Rose and I are helping Ron with running the FTC. Officially, that's probably the best way to put it, that we are helping Ron run the FTC events in Maryland. As you know, this year there's all sorts of challenges besides just trying to find venues and change how we are getting the information to the teams under Ron's leadership. Sarah, me, Rose, we've been working on a new interface, a new events page for FTC, and eventually we'll also start something for FRC. There's a lot of things that we've automated. But besides that, my role specifically has been, I've been focusing more on the event side. Rose is more on the outreach and trying to help the teams. But I do know I've run FTC, FRC, FLL junior teams, so I kind of know if there's anybody out there who wants help, I'm out there. I'm not going to just stick myself to, hey, events is my only thing and just be there. I'm open to any help if anybody needs. The only other person, I guess, I know who's on this call besides the First Chesapeake folks and the FSM is Phil. I believe this is Phil from Garrett County. If it is Phil, hi Phil. I don't see your photo, but your video. But for the others who don't know me, like Rose said, I was the FSM before. I've been in the First community since 2010. That's about it. I think if there's any other questions, ping me on, I don't know, what's the best way? P. Karunakarn.
Yeah, we're going to
Yeah,
point out that everybody's on the First Chesapeake website as far as emails.
Yeah, so
Everybody
just reach out to me and I'll give you my phone number. My phone number is 410-419-5882. The best way to get hold of me is text, WhatsApp, iMessage. That's the best way. I'll respond quickly. Emails may take about a day.
And now your phone number is going out on the World Wide Web.
That's all right.
Yes, no
Text,
problem.
I'll respond. Phones, I won't pick up. So that's it.
Okay, thanks, Prasad. So we do have this shift to First Chesapeake, and that's why really I think we have a lot of new stuff going on here, and especially for the Maryland teams, you know, this is a big change, and so we did want to introduce everybody. And another thing that has changed is the way we're doing the event registration. We're right in the middle, just kicked off the second round, and I know we don't have any final on that, but Ron, did you want to say anything and any recommendations, comments, observations?
I would recommend people put in pics. I mean, what's odd is I can tell you there's a bunch of people that paid for events that haven't paid first yet. And this year you're going to have to pay first in order to use the system, because they have a little catch in there with that remote hub thing where we're going to do our judging through. I have to add mentor 1 and 2 into the system, and it won't let us do it unless you've paid on their side as well. But I think I have 108 paid teams right now, total, which is you know, we're actually sitting around 40% of the teams that either paid us or paid first or both, which isn't too bad because of my experience, at least in the past, has been a lot of teams try to wait till the last minute to register. And one of the things we don't want to do is too much of that, because we have all those events out there, but after we get through this, we'll start dropping some of them if people don't actually sign in and you know, take those events. So we may have to consolidate some of them and so on. And I think that's about all I have on that.
Yeah, and I think that's a real concern that I had, and I'm working with Ron to try to reach out, especially to the rookie teams that are going to be a little nervous maybe about actually competing this year, knowing how difficult it's going to be to pull something together. And, you know, our understanding needs to be that, yeah, it's going to be kind of challenging for everybody. But and I've said this to FLL teams and, you know, FRC teams and all kinds of teams through the years, if you don't compete, like go to the event that is the celebration of the closing and demonstrate what you've done, then it really takes something away from all that work that the kids have done. So we definitely want to get the teams involved in these events as much as possible. And what we're talking about here tonight is resources and ways that you can find support if there's some challenges ahead of you. And we know we all have plenty of challenges. Yeah. Now with that, a couple of the folks that are here to support across programs who work for FIRST would be our first senior mentors. So I'll go ahead and let them introduce themselves. I guess, Patrick, you're the Virginia representative. So why don't you go ahead and say a little bit about your background and kind of what your goals are going to be for FIRST Technology.
Yeah, my name is Patrick Foley. I am a technology education teacher in Stafford County. I've been involved with FIRST for 20 years now. Majority of the time has been a volunteer mentor, and for about 6 years I was a coach for FTC and FRC teams in Fredericksburg. So still, I've only been in this position for a couple of weeks, and so we're still trying to figure things out. But the main goal is to support the teams with whatever they need for junior FLL, FTC, and FRC. So I'll be helping all programs, all partners as well, at least in the Virginia, DC region.
All right, great. So I think, you know, the first senior mentor position isn't something that everybody's familiar with, but, you know, FIRST does have staff members in local communities who are there to help teams navigate a lot of the things that they have to navigate in being part of FIRST. And we're just in an unusual position of having this huge turnover in all of our first senior mentors. So the other one that recently came on board is Tom Milnes. And so Tom, why don't you introduce yourself?
You're muted.
Yeah, I got you. Okay, you're unmuted.
I'm unmuted?
Yep.
Okay, can you hear me? All right. I'm Tom Milnes, or Tommy Milnes, if you want to call me. My background, I was actually part of Miss Rose's team, the 2199 Robo Lions during my high school years. And before that, I was in the FLL program for most of middle school as well. My particular background isn't so technical when it comes to maybe my experience. Mostly I'm a major in German and Arabic and Middle Eastern studies. So a little disconnected there, but I do have this experience with FIRST, and it's honestly one of the best things I ever did in high school. Again, basically, and it's hard to follow you, Patrick, because that was a really good presentation. But basically, my job is to try and promote FIRST within the state of Maryland. That's my region of focus. And I'm trying to figure out ways to do that given the current climate. I think that's going to be that's going to be very challenging. That's going to be the challenge for both of us this year, is to try to navigate the different restrictions related to COVID. And I'm thinking of trying to do a lot of that as virtually as I can. I think that, such as meetings like this might actually be a good option to connect people, whereas maybe an actual in-person conference wouldn't. I'm also I'm thinking of maybe trying to set up a website that sort of acts as like a liaison like a point of contact for me, between me and the other teams of Maryland. So yeah, it'll be a challenge, and I haven't fleshed everything out yet, but I hope to get something much more substantial by next month. So.
Okay. Yeah. So those are your first senior mentors. And now we have another new organization that stood up just in the last couple of months. And it is called our FTC Advisory Committee. And that is a group of volunteers who applied and were selected to form a group to support teams across FIRST Chesapeake. And they've had a couple of meetings and had some pretty interesting ideas. So I'm going to let Eric talk about that.
Yeah, so I'm the moderator, I guess, of the first FTC Advisory Committee for FIRST Chesapeake. So there is another advisory committee for FRC. And so I coordinate with Ann a little bit and talk about maybe some common topics. And hopefully in the future we'll have some common meetings to discuss common interests between the two programs. But what our job is to do is we provide the team's voice to FIRST Chesapeake. So we are a sounding board for FIRST Chesapeake when they want to ask what teams may think, because our membership is made up entirely of mentors from FTC teams in FIRST Chesapeake. I'm a little bit unique in that I don't directly mentor an FTC team, but I do administer 3 of them. So I talk to my mentors. But my job is to collect all the ideas, put them together, and send them back to Ron if Ron's not in our meetings, which he has been recently.
Yeah.
So what we've been working on so far is our first meeting, which was in October, just introduced each other, did some introductions and talked about what competition is going to look like this year. We're kind of a sounding board for CHS on, hey, this is what we're thinking. What do you guys think that the teams will think about this? And that went over really well. Some good suggestions from Ron and the CHS team. And I think overall, the committee was pleased with the plan. In our second meeting, we talked about, hey, we know this year's going to be challenging for rookies, especially given the fact that we can't interact with them at competition. So how can we, as FTC teams, especially mature FTC teams, help other FTC teams that are rookies or maybe don't have the level of maturity that we do, get through this season and other seasons. What type of resources can we put together? So right now, what the committee members are doing are working at putting together a web page that would be on the First Chesapeake site. They'll have different links and information for resources for teams about, hey, did you know there's 2 game manuals, part 1 and part 2? Did you know that you need to build the robot before you show up to competition? Those type of things, right? How to put wheels on. And so we're not necessarily coming up with our own information, but providing a bunch of resources where that information already exists. So everything from how to build a robot to what competitions are, to why the game manuals are important, and then offering also a resource where they can find other FTC teams that are willing to mentor them. And then their meeting times and contact information. So that's what we're working on now. It may take a little bit of time given that we're all volunteers and all have our own teams, among other things. But I think it's good. So going forward, any FTC team that has a question they want to ask or a concern about FTC and CHS, go ahead. You can email me. I'll make sure it gets on our agenda, and the committee can talk about it. But that's kind of what we do.
Yeah, I was really excited about this research page because it was something that I kind of had as a pet project to try to get veteran team input and what I call the drink from a fire hose out there on the internet, you know, different resources that teams can find. But somebody needs to sort of make sure that from the point of view of an FTC team, it's actually going to be the most efficient and effective resource and not something that's just kind of a time waster for the teams are confusing. So I really appreciate that the committee has taken that on as a priority thing to do. And I think it'll be really valuable. And you've already shared, it went out in one of the emails, a fabulous resource that, you know, I didn't know anything about. And some of the teams were really happy to see that. So, you know, I'm very excited to see more from the advisory committee on recommendations because you guys have got some great input on that group.
We're gonna try.
Yeah. So for the there may be a few rookies here. There may be some of you just feel like rookies this year because we all do because we've never done this before. And I think that's kind of the point. And I know we pulled this together very short notice. I talked to Ron last week and said, hey, with registration wrapping up, this is a key time. And there may be some questions out there. People are maybe a little bit deer in the headlights. So I wanted to record this to share it with other folks. And I do think those of you that I see here, I know a lot of you got personal invitations for me to be here. So thank you very much for coming. I really do appreciate that we have some of you here. But now I'd like to invite you to say, we're all friends here. Are there things that we have not discussed, things that you have a question about, you're not really sure how this is going to go? And I'm sure that whatever questions you have are going to be beneficial to the folks that can't be here because we're all in this together. We're all trying to figure this out. And I really appreciate that you spent the time. So I didn't mention at the beginning, I was going to say, go ahead and put questions in the chat, but you can put them in the chat now if you like, or just, speak up. Is there something we didn't talk about that you came thinking you were going to hear that you guys would like to have us address? And while you're thinking about that.
So Rose?
Yes.
So hi guys. I'm Bob Seipel, and I'm coaching Team 607. First time in lead position for that. Our situation is that the school decided they would not sponsor any teams this year. So now my basement is sponsoring the team. Fortunately, I have a large unfinished basement, big enough to do a setup in. So we're being safe, but the kids are coming over every Wednesday to work. So I appreciate hearing about all the support, because sitting here in our COVID isolated house, it feels a little lonely in terms of FTC. So greatly appreciate everybody in the roles and offering the support. We're Maryland side, so just if we're going to publish Eric's and Tommy's contact information, that would be great.
Yep.
Yeah, I meant to mention too that all of us that are on this call that have been introduced have email contact information on the First Chesapeake website.
Okay.
So we're either staff under the staff, and I think that's pretty much where you find everybody. I think the FSMs are also included on the
I
staff.
don't know if Eric's under there.
I
Eric's on the
think there's a
website.
separate advisory committee list.
Yeah, there probably is. But everybody's email address is relatively easy. It's the first initial and your last name at firstchesapeake.org. So,
Except the senior mentors, because they are at firstinspires.org. But
yeah.
That's how I missed you first time, Patrick, trying to email you. So you said something interesting, Bob, about feeling isolated, and I do believe that a lot of teams are feeling that way, that you're kind of out there, you know, on your own trying to figure it out. And that we've also been trying to pull something together. We're looking for some veteran teams to volunteer, but we may be starting something we're calling, we're not calling it virtual pits, we're calling it some sort of a, what are we calling it? Collaboration opportunity. We haven't come up with the right name for it, but what we're trying to do is get some veteran teams to make themselves available on a kind of an open call, where there would be breakout rooms. So if you had a question, for example, about Java, we could get somebody who's going to be the point of contact, and you can join the meeting and go talk to them. And we're hoping once we get the volunteers that we can find a time, say, you know, Saturday from 10 to 11, or Wednesday night from 7 to 8, or whatever, and staff that up with some veteran teams. So that's in progress.
I guess a question, Rose, would be, what do they think as far as the best times that we could get the most of them on?
Yeah, anybody have any ideas about like what would work for you if we get these volunteers?
Rose, I have a question about this year. Let me introduce myself. I'm Tom Lee. I retired from the federal government after 45 years in 2011, and I ran into Rose over at the Naval Academy when I went over there just to see what FTC was. Anybody who's met Rose knows that becomes a whirlwind. And before I knew it, I was scooped into this whole operation here. I run a team out of South Carroll High School, which is not a big suburban area. Actually, we have 3 teams there right now. And in the past, we've been rocking and rolling up to 55 members in our robotics club. This year has really been difficult. We had a good situation in that the school let us have the auxiliary auditorium to set up in. So we had a huge space to set up the field and have a big inventory of parts and tools. This year we're fielding 3 teams, and they're all being fielded in people's basements. And the problem we have now is where we used to have a single inventory of parts, tools, and that sort of thing. Now we've had to spread it out. And I think what my question is, how are these events going to be run? What's exactly going to happen on January 23rd when my team shows up, or January 24th? I don't know, is it a 2-day event or how it works? What's going to happen?
You gonna take that, Ron?
Yeah, I was going to let you do that.
Well, I was there at the practice too.
Yeah.
Hey, did you sign up for the scrimmage, Tom?
No, I did not.
Okay. Well, we did have a run through at the one scrimmage, and then we did another kind of run through last weekend for some of the tech. My short answer to that would be you would show up with 5 people total. Your robot would compete in some rounds. You'd be done within 3 hours doing your rounds.
Will we be competing on a full field, Rose?
On full field.
With 4 teams?
Yep.
There are 4 teams, assuming that that's the way the registration works out.
Okay.
Right. And so you would have a score and a win-loss record like you normally would, but only part of the event would take place at any given time because only 8 of the teams would be there. So then there would be another cohort after the space was cleaned and you can have more people in, and then another cohort and another cohort. So then
Okay.
I'm going to let you take it from there to talk about like the overall event, how those cohorts get stitched together.
So not only would we have a date, but we would have a time window inside that date?
Have a time window.
Okay.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Prasad, I think you were working on this today, but the cohorts aren't assigned yet, right?
The
No.
cohorts are not assigned yet.
So your
And
time is
just
not
for-
assigned.
Right, because we have to wait until we get everybody's registration in, right? Before we decide how many cohorts we even need to have.
And Ron, don't we have that, the virtual event, the scrimmage we did somewhere online as a YouTube link so Tom could see how exactly it works? I thought, didn't they, the stream, they didn't put it on?
No,
Missed it
something
up and
happened to it.
didn't get to record it.
Okay. But I have Tom, if you really are interested, I have a, what do you call it, time-lapse video if you want to just see it.
No,
Not official, but.
I think I know enough now to know what's
And
going on.
the other thing is teams are going to get, just a taped out area for your pit. We are not going to provide anything. So the big thing there is make sure that if you want a table, you bring your own table. If you want, anything that there, I mean, basically what we want is we don't want to have to clean in between, have to clean individual chairs and tables and all that. So basically you bring everything you need and you take everything you had away with you. And then we got a big empty space to clean. And that way we can turn teams around faster.
That's good information. Thank you.
And
Yeah.
judging, just in case you're interested in the judging piece,
Yeah.
right now it is set up that judging will be on the opposite day that you compete. So if your cohort competes and matches on Saturday, you would then have judging time on Sunday and vice versa. So if your match time was on Sunday, then, and then we're looking to do award ceremony, Ron, on Tuesday?
Right. Tuesday night.
Yeah, so you don't have to go anywhere except for the robot game. If you go to the robot game and everything
Yes.
after that is online remote. So one of the things that we want to talk to teams about as it gets closer is kind of more about how that judging works. And that's planned for, some of this information, I didn't mean to mention this, I'll put a pitch in now. We've been working on getting these Thursday Chesapeake chats, putting in pieces of information on these Thursday night chats that are good for teams to have when we're ready and we have the information. So the judging is still, as Sarah said, like we kind of know what we're doing with that, but there are some pieces that haven't been really confirmed by first. So as we get closer and we know for sure how it's going to work, then on Thursday nights, we'll have maybe judges that have been trained or Sarah, who will have share it.
We promise we'll get you somebody who knows more than I do.
The issue is that there are some things that we just don't know. But we do know the event plan because Ron and Prasad.
An experienced team, a Biden team trying to build a diverse team, put all the pieces together.
I think I missed part of that. Okay. Well, we'll continue to talk a little bit about the events because I think it's important for people to know that that's what you registered for, was those 2 opportunities to do that. And they have to be spaced out over a longer period of time and go with this like Tuesday closure, announcement, because we just need to space out a little bit into extra time. But as far as the team commitment to go somewhere, it's for that about 3-hour period. And for those of you that are online for Maryland, I know most of you probably are interested in the Maryland location, but there's also a Northern Virginia location that's, within reach if you want to do that. But it's not the same as we used to do when you would have 24, 48 teams show up at a location and that was your group. You won't see a lot of the teams. You'll see the ones that are in your cohort during the competition. So that's quite a bit different.
Rose, if I may, so when the plan was presented to the TAC, one of the things that the committee was concerned about was the interaction among teams. Because one of the core things at competition that some of the kids like, especially when it comes to helping other teams, strategy sessions, things like that. Mm-hmm. And just set expectations that won't happen this year in a traditional manner. The expectation is that teams will not be able to interact with each other in each other's pits and fix each other's robots, just to minimize the close contact. There will be some time, and if Ron can correct me if I'm being wrong, but directly before a match for teams to strategize and talk about that match. But it won't be an hour beforehand over by the bleachers. That kind of stuff's not going to be able to happen. And it's just that this times are in, so the community did talk to that extensively about, maybe some other ways to set up pre-competition ways for teams to interact if that was desired.
Yeah, and that's what I was talking about, trying to get those veteran teams to volunteer to maybe host some open sessions where you can talk to other people, very specific problems, general questions, social questions. One of the things to be aware of with these online sessions, and it is a concern I think that we all share, is that we don't want to encourage the totally free-form online communications that is not supervised by mentors and adults in position to do that supervision. So we have been very careful. We've had a lot of proposals, but we've been really careful in reviewing those proposals for how adequately we can still meet those YPP requirements of supervision for the students and online. And some of you all out there can tell stories about, that going awry, Prasad, and Ron, know some of these stories. So that is, that's one of the reasons why we're not just like free for all saying, well, we'll just have Zoom meetings all the time, because we do need to know that there's a commitment to having this oversight. And also, so for your team members, there are connections that teams make. I mean, there are Discord channels, there are blogs, there are conversations that go on. But as far as something that is sponsored by First Chesapeake, we're a little more careful about that. So.
Another question out there, Rose.
Okay. Why am I not seeing it?
Oh, maybe it got sent to me. Yeah, I guess it did.
Okay.
There's a question about scouting and that. So basically, this year's, your overall competition this year will be, you'll come in, do your 3 hours, next team will come in, do the 3 hours, or the next cohort, and so on. And the rankings will be based on how well you did in those overall across all 40 teams. There won't be any alliance selection playoff process whatsoever in it, just because we'd have to expose people to too many people across the events. So that's how the rankings will be. There won't be the playoff piece in there.
Now I have a question, Ron. Will there still be a state tournament at the end of this, and will there be a world first tournament?
So I can answer part of that. We're planning on having two championships, actually, a North one and a South one. And the teams that are closest to each one will actually compete in each one of those. Again, we're trying to keep the travel distance down as much as we can, and that's why we're picking to do two of them. So that would be that. How many teams will qualify at each event? I get that question all the time. I don't know that until we know how many teams are at an event,
right.
and how many teams overall we have, that actually sign up. So those things are kind of up in the air, but you'll qualify based on whatever it is. I'm guessing like in a 40 team event, we probably have four teams from each event that would qualify in that range.
Okay. Yeah,
as far as worlds go, though, it's a little tougher, is because worlds, they're actually not going to, you're not going to qualify and move forward like always. They've already pretty much decided that. They don't know how big worlds, so-called worlds, could be, because obviously would be kind of scared, or is kind of scared to death of, let's bring in people from all over the world into one big happy family here and see what happens. Right. And so I think it's going to be more of an invitation only, let's have some fun kind of thing, and nobody specifically will qualify.
Yeah, I think
I don't know the answer.
Something about there's been a little bit of blogging about, at least on the FRC side, like it's more of a celebration. Think FLL, like you go and have woohoo, a little fun at the end, but it's a little bit less about the competition, because there's so many different factors that go into people not wanting to do that travel. Because we're able to say, and I did want to throw this out there, we're able to say, okay, you get 5 people come to the event. That's total, including mentor. We have to have at least a mentor come. So you have very few members of your team on site. But the rest of your team, And this is some of the genius that Ron has put into this. He put a lot of thought into this, and it actually worked fairly well. We tested it out last weekend. The rest of your team would be able to use a venue like we're doing now to actually see what's going on the field, and they would be seen by the team while they're competing and heard by the team. So they can cheer, they can clap, they can be part of the event remotely. So it's the virtual stands.
Yeah.
Really.
Make signs, dress up as a team. You can get some of that team spirit. Everybody can have the same t-shirts on.
And people on the other end, if you have more than, a couple of team members, if they've been working together and want to get together, they can come in together as a group. But in essence, what you see on your screen now is what they'll see at the venue on a big projector screen, be connected up to a speaker as well as a camera and a microphone. So in other words, you can yell at the people on the field, and the people on the field could yell back, just like you do at a regular event where the people are in the stands screaming at them, and they're not listening to you anyway. But the drive team kind of gets in their zone and they don't pay any attention to anybody anyhow.
I think I want to just say one thing as far as my own personal feeling is that I think the first FTC has been such a great program for students. As far as getting them into college, getting them interested in engineering. And when this whole thing hit in March and April, I just thought to myself, this is going to be a disaster. Then USRA dropped the Maryland thing.
Yeah.
And I think that what you people have done has been a Herculean effort to pull this off. And it actually is probably not going to be that bad of a year. So thank you to everybody.
Well, thank you for thinking that. We appreciate that.
We hope there's a lot of the same sentiment out there, and people aren't just feeling totally frustrated. But I know from those of you that I know personally that you're putting in a lot of time and effort and creativity and making it happen and keeping the kids engaged. And for some of you, giving them an introduction to this, moving up, and for some of you, making their senior year not a complete loss. So all of that I think is really important, and we're hoping to just bridge into a little bit more normalcy again next year. But if we lost everybody this year, where would our program be? We wouldn't have folks to rebuild it. So thank you for doing that.
Well, and the kids are learning from example from watching you guys too, that roadblocks come up and we find ways to problem solve and get through it, and find different ways to build a robot and different ways to be a part of a community. And we all know how to use Zoom now.
Yeah. All right. Were there any other questions that anybody's getting? I'm not really seeing any other questions at this point.
Phil's got one.
Go.
He's muted.
Where are you, Phil? I'll just had to unmute everybody. So mute yourselves. Oh no.
Yeah, he should be on now.
You're on now. We should hear you, Phil. You might have to put it in the chat though, because you're coming across kind of garbled. Yeah. I'm going to mute everybody. And you can unmute yourself again if you wish, but unmute myself. There we go. Yeah, if you want to go ahead and send me a chat, Phil, I really appreciate if you had some comments. Yeah. I just wanted to say a little bit about this Thursday's chat. We had 3 teams volunteer to talk to rookie teams about some basics of building a chassis. And we're hoping to follow that up. We definitely will follow that up. The next one will be about self-inspection, because that's what we're going to be doing. Is how do you inspect your robot and make sure you're ready to go when you don't have inspectors there? And then there will be one on, we're not going to have another referee one. We're just going to go to the judging one, right, Ron?
Hopefully.
Yeah. So those are on the
Or
first
on Ron.
website.
I unmuted you.
Oh, yeah.
Because the other one is the Women in STEM is going to be the first chat of every month for the first half hour.
And I really enjoyed that one.
I was going to say, if you guys haven't had a chance to
good.
watch the Canon, it was, if you have
Yeah,
women on your teams, I really thought they were inspirational and very easy to relate to.
And if you have other ideas of things that you would like us to do, especially if you have a specific need and you think it's only you, there's probably another team out there that has the same issue and has the same question. And if we're not hearing it, we did have very early on, we had a conversation about just functioning in a time of a pandemic. And we had some teams share different things they were doing, working in basements, separating people out, working in small groups, some of those ideas. And I guess, it's a little late now for folks to go back and try to do that. So now we're looking for what is the next thing to kind of keep things going, keep the kids engaged. I would also like to mention that at the end of this month, I guess, we're going to hear a little bit more about this innovation challenge, which is something that's supposed to be open to FTC and FRC. That's sort of like the FLL project. So, and it could be done totally virtual. So that might be something for some of your team members that have been hesitant to meet with others. They can have a role. I would keep your ear to the ground for announcements on that. And there are some other ways that teams are finding to work together. And, we'd like to share those as well. So we could try to come up with another opportunity to meet and share. We could give that information to the advisory committee for them to put on the resources that they're sharing. So they don't have to go out and find all these resources. If you have something that's worked well for you, please, contact the advisory committee, let them know, and they can include it in those resources. Bill, I've got you on twice now. Is your other login going to work?
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I was on my phone before. I was having dinner, so I couldn't really, engage. Hey, I had a couple of questions. First one, actually, I guess there's really only one. Judging for Sarah. I know you don't know a lot about the judging yet, as you said. Our team is very active in the engineering notebook, and we do it religiously, we do it continuously, we do it along the way. So we're concerned that we don't know what we're going to have to present or can present when it comes to the online judging. I did the MTI judging, so I know at least one way that online judging is being done, but I don't know what you guys are planning. So can you give me, or when will you be able to give me some idea of what we should be doing in conjunction with what we're already doing with our engineering notebook?
Okay. And Ron, help me out here, but my understanding is the engineering portfolio is very similar to the pages you would have bookmarked, right? In the engineering notebook, you would have marked certain pages you wanted the judge to look at, correct? Most people in engineering notebooks mark certain pages.
Yes, I think last year's instructions were to bookmark about 8 pages, I think it was.
Well, the portfolio is, I believe there's some parameters out there. I'd have to go look on how many pages it can be, but it's...
Right, but it also says that we should have the engineering notebook available in case the judges want to see it. So how does that work?
Right.
They do say that in several places. I don't think they're going to ask for it.
Okay.
Because they're not going to be able to get a hold of you.
Right.
The way the remote hub works is it's going to give you what you can submit, and you're not going to be able to submit extra stuff on top of that. So the engineering, the portfolio is one of the items that are on there. Unfortunately, the remote hub isn't finished yet, so we can't even look at it to see exactly what it is you submit. The pieces that's different is if you put in for the control award, normally the judges would go and watch your robot perform and see if it did what you said it did.
Right.
They're not going to have to do that this time. So what's going to happen is you're going to say, this is what my robot does, and then you're going to do a video of it, and you're going to submit the video to us so that the judges can actually review that video that proves that, and autonomous, you can do these 12 things or whatever it is you said that you could do. and that'll be the external piece to the remote hub, but the rest of it supposedly is in the remote hub. But like I say, we haven't actually seen it, so it's hard to tell.
Right.
We're going to do on the engineering notebook, the one, hopefully the first chat in December, the first half will be the one in STEM. The second half will actually be on how to take your engineering notebook and turn it into the engineering portfolio.
When you say how to, I mean like
Tips.
Sorry, what was that?
Tips. I mean, just some general direction. I mean, I don't know that we're going to be able to give you a formula necessarily for how to do it, but I do think they'll have some good advice.
Right. So we were preparing, sort of. Well, last year we did a lot of engineering notebook online, cooperatively within the team. This year we're planning to do the same thing, but we were looking at what it would take to put it into a ginormous PDF, basically. So really, what you're saying is the portfolio is going to be a smaller subset of that. So are the awards similar to before, or are they pared down from normal?
I believe all the words are the same. I don't think anything has changed.
So, okay.
Yeah, some has, but that's all.
Yeah, I guess so there'll be
there's some change in the order of
the ranking, but
right,
the actual correct.
Right.
Yeah, there's some movement as far as what counts, but the actual awards are still the same.
And so the video for the control award, I see how that's essential, obviously, but there's nothing equivalent for mechanical. So, if you're trying to, I mean, if there's like 8 pages of an engineering notebook, there's not a lot of opportunity to cover almost anything about the mechanical. I know that they can probably show it during the judging, but there's no opportunity at this point to present, a video that shows what the robot does or talking about. I'm trying to explore the maximum so I make sure we get within that subset,
I totally agree with you, and I have heard that question by quite a few people in the last week or so asking the same thing. And I mean, it's unfortunate is we can't answer it because we haven't seen exactly what it's like. They've told us they're gonna come out and let us into it on December 1st.
Okay.
And then hopefully we can answer it after that.
But I think the point that Phil's making is that in the past during the competition, the judges have walked around and looked at the robots.
Right.
And, is that going to be possible at all, or no?
So, I mean, we have discussed that. I mean, the judges will have access to the videos to see the robots compete. That is not the same as walking into a pit and being able to touch a robot, talk to a robot, and talk to kids. And so we have discussed other ways for trying to get that information. We're just exploring different ways.
And the other one is it doesn't necessarily prevent it. I mean, again, we have to fall within the rules, but it doesn't necessarily prevent us from the kids actually having the robot there, showing it on video and pointing out things on it.
Yeah, that's somewhat effective. I mean, just as purely as a suggestion, and based on what we came up with at the end of MTI when we did our review, was that it seemed like appropriate that the teams could be asked to present a 1 or 2 minute video of their autonomous and a 1 or 2 minute video showing in detail the mechanical aspects that they want to highlight. I just throw that out there as a suggestion.
Okay. Oh,
make it a lot easier for the judges to actually make a tough decision, I think, that way.
Yeah, no, if it's close, especially because, I mean, it's always the case. You always want to know that it does what they say it does.
Right.
Not just that they tell a good story.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was an MTI judge as well, Phil, and I think one of the things that my takeaway, and we're trying to figure out a way to address this, is that not all teams were on the same page in terms of their understanding of how best to present in the online interview process. But it was very different from the in-person interview process, and those that did it well
did really well.
Did really well, but when it comes down to, they knew how to organize ahead of time and orchestrate in this environment, right? And make sure that there was a camera on the robot. Like, I think that was just a huge thing. That in many of the interviews, you didn't see the robot, but in the ones that you did, and when they talked about it, they actually had a camera on it, right?
Right.
Made a huge difference, but that was just something that nobody told them ahead of time. Some figured it out and some didn't. So we do want to try to provide a little more guidance as we get closer in that process, not only of the judging process, but that the presentation, how it has changed.
Yeah, well, and one of the other differences in those was the teams that had they did a screen share with an actual presentation while they were discussing. So it was like holding up their, picture of their notebook or whatever. And that also obviously was pretty good, because then everyone else the other kids could cue off that one kid who was showing their presentation. So that was effective. All right. I guess my other question, Ron, when you said that signing up for the second event was open, I was a little surprised because I'd forgotten. But when I went to do it just now, it wasn't clear to me that that's what I was doing. I went in, I logged in, and it said, "Oh, what's your selection?" It's like, "Oh, is this my first selection? My second selection?" Just something that would make it clear. Okay, now you are making your second selection. Your first one's been locked in or something.
Yeah.
I did it. I assume I did it right, and I'm kind of guessing.
So I have the same comment. I think that there seemed like the second time I did it, there was another save button on there now.
There was a new save button, yeah.
He added the save button.
Your first choices were saved the last time around. I'm not sure.
Well, they were, because they when you get into your teams and you load it, you click the button for your teams, it actually tells you what you're already registered for.
Yes. But
they come up on the top of that page.
But when I signed up for the second event, or the second choice time, I didn't get any feedback to say that my selections were accepted.
If you go back into the page that you made the selection on, you can see it. So that's good.
Yeah.
And if you hit the save button, it'll tell you they saved it.
Really? Mine didn't do anything. It just
right.
I thought it was there for show.
No, it does actually save it. It forces it.
Good.
The way he set that up is it actually auto saves every time you add
Right.
one to the top. And so that's why he's like, "Oh, I don't need the button." And then like I must have had 50 people got a hold of me and said, "Hey, there's no save button." And I'm like, "Yeah." So it's not just for show, but it kind of is, because it's saving them anyway. But
It's like the closed door button on the elevator.
right, exactly. Yeah, it's going to close anyway. That's true.
Hey, Eric.
We're kind of getting ready to wind down. I don't know if you had any closing thoughts, anyone, on kind of how things are going. Anything inspirational to share with us as we're making our way through this. And
I just had a
yeah,
question.
Brent?
Kind of piggyback on what Phil was saying with the judging process. As far as the whole outreach side of things, the team's been brainstorming a bunch of ideas, but a lot of them are proving to be unpractical in this COVID world. Is there going to be a de-emphasis on the outreach side of things this year, or should we continue to try to, make that a portion of our efforts in addition to everything else?
I would continue to try to make it a portion of what you do. I mean, it's what you do is totally different, and that's the whole thing. I mean, because think about we've had a lot of teams that are out there 3D printing, PPE and different items like that, and that's all part of outreach too. It's different than you've ever done before, but I mean those things. And we also have a lot of teams that are actually out there trying to tutor some of the kids that are struggling, in their classes and stuff. So, I think it's different, and it's obviously not going to have it's a different kind of impact. It's going to be much more individual instead of, a broader audience like in the past we've always been able to do.
One thing that along that same line, we have the same, I think everyone has the same issue on that. I was going to say the innovation challenge that's part of this year's competition. I mean, when I read, I thought, oh, it's Global Innovation Award all over again from First Lego League. And we do that. Actually, my Lego League teams won that once. And it's a perfect opportunity for outreach. So I would say if you want to do something, look at the innovation challenge, find something that relates to your community and make that your thing. So that kills two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
That's good advice.
Yeah. And as soon as that information comes out as to what exactly that requires, we'll
yeah, for both programs, because it's
it's FTC and FRC.
Yeah.
So.
And we have to mention Qualcomm is the sponsor of it, mainly because they're gonna give us some funds to actually dole out to teams. So I want to make sure I mention that.
Especially since
It's
we're
funny because
recorded, right?
they sent me a thing saying, can you promote the award and mention Qualcomm? And I'm like, how can I promote the award when I don't even know what
You
exactly
don't know what it is. There's like 2 sentences that says it's like the challenge. It's like,
Let
okay.
me sell you a car that I've never seen.
Ron, I know you're laughing about it, but it's kind of funny because I was pushing my team, especially my FRC team, to do the innovation challenge. And I got a ton of pushback about not wanting to do it because it's not building a robot, right? They would rather go rebuild a robot with the kids from 2012 than to do the innovation challenge because they don't view it as fun, I guess. I don't know. So I'm still pushing them, poking that button. But I think it's hard when people don't understand what it is. They view it as the FLL project.
Right.
I don't want to do a research project. I do research projects in school. I don't want to do that. So I think the faster we find out what exactly it entails, and if we can pitch it as something fun, like a robot, have more teams do it.
I would pitch it as an invention, which is...
That's what I tried.
Yeah, you didn't buy it? All right.
They looked at me like, no, it's a research project.
The other thing to keep in mind, and this is for our first senior mentors too, is there are still younger teams out there. There are not as many. FLL is down quite a bit. FLL the Challenge, and then there's FLL Explore. But there are still some teams out there, and they love to interact with the older kids, just to inspire them, just to talk to them, just to say, hey, you could do this in the future, and we're hanging in there. That could, and Brent, I happen to know you guys were just an FLL team, so, and we actually, there are a few, and a few more will be coming later because the season's pushed out. So there's that possibility as well. It's just talking to, just communicating with, in a virtual sense or however, some of the younger kids, that would be, if you haven't thought about that, then talk to me about it. We can work that out too. And Tom is going to be in a position to be able to contact a lot of those teams as well, and Patrick and Virginia for the Virginia teams.
Well, and one of the advantages of being on a platform like this is you can reach communities that are not geographically close to you. And we do cover a very broad area. So, First Chesapeake can help with that.
Actually, for anybody's interested, there is a rookie team that's in Herndon that's looking for a team to work with them, and we're trying to locate somebody that's geographically close. But if there's a team out there that would like to help, and they're a very rookie team, if there's a team out there that would like to work with them, then let me know.
Another FLL to FTC.
Another FLL to FTC, but they're very lost in terms of figuring out the FTC end of things.
They're looking for that book that tells them what to do for FLL.
That book doesn't tell you. I think that's funny when people say that. That book is not that helpful.
Well, it's more helpful than, I think one of the things that people underestimate is like what Mentor 1, and 2 have to do behind the scenes. If you haven't done that, it can be overwhelming in itself, just to keep on all the dates and put all the things in at the right time and all that stuff. And it's like, that we don't have a lot of help out there, and that's, for that. And that prevents a lot. It prevents a lot of people from starting a team because they look at it, they get overwhelmed, and they say, well, forget it. FLL was easy. I don't want to bother doing FTC.
But we can definitely help with any of that stuff for any of you guys who have questions about it. And, just do ask, and folks that might be watching the recording. That's one of the things that's pretty easy for us to help with, because we've all navigated that. We all know.
Speaking of that, they are actually in the process of merging Maryland, DC, and Virginia all into the new region of Chesapeake. So all the teams will all be in Chesapeake, and they didn't get it quite right yet. Is if you get in your dashboard and it tells you have something to do, it wants you to select Chesapeake as your region because the other regions don't exist anymore. But
no, they're still on the list. They're still there. It'll just tell you it's wrong, but it won't tell you what's wrong. So I sent that to you today. I sent that to Sean today, Tom. I said, look at that and see, because it's not obvious, but it will keep telling you there's a problem and you won't know what the problem is, but that's what it is. It's because they've created a new region.
But they're supposedly in the process of fixing that, and they can't figure out how to fix it be a program, so they're going to actually have people sit down and manually flip everybody. I'm like, it's bizarre.
There's a joke there about Maryland and Virginia just being incompatible, but I'm not going to say it.
We're past that, Eric. We're past that. Well, it was really good seeing everybody. I know we're a little bit over time. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out right now. If you have later comments, you have some other questions, my email is ryoung@firstchesapeake.org. Most of you know what it is. You emailed me before. And Ron Arthurian at firstchesapeake.org. We all check our email all the time. So except Prasad, he says call him, and he gave you his number. So please reach out. And if this was helpful, and if we hear from some other teams that would like to have, just these kind of chats and ask questions, we definitely can easily set up another one in the future. But I'm try to respect folks' time. We're a little bit over an hour. So thanks a lot for coming, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Good night.